joined up at Morton down on Alice Street in Brisbane, down and beyond the Botanical Gardens there. And I was there quite a few months. They sent you off to Flinders Naval Depot in Victoria, where you done 3 months training. Then they shoved you off to a shift. And the first ship I went on was a mine layer, the Bungaree. There's about 12 of us from the one class went on that. It was in Sydney Harbour, and all they sent us there for, well, the crew was on leave to chip and paint the bloody thing. And when they come back, I went to the Colac. I don't know where the other boys left, but I went to the Colac and served, about 18 months on that. Colac was easy going to the other ships. It was a smaller ship, and you got away with things you wouldn't get away on the other ship. But it was a hard life, small ships, and we done convoy work. Now and again, mine laying. You'd get 3 corvettes together and they'd spread out over the ocean and sort of looking for mines, you know. And the main thing was mines that we knew were up around off Caloundra and them places. Down the back of a minesweeper, they had big reels of wire, and all that wire had little sharp edges on it. And then you had kites, what they called kites, like a little ladder. And they kept the power vanes low, and you can set that wire to the certain depth you want it. And if there were mines there, it would rub up against the mines as you went along and cut the wire which was the mines were attached to. And when they come to the surface, well, you had Jaegers there with rifles to fire at them. And if you hit the horn, it'd blow up. But if it only hit the mine, the round part of the mine, well, it'd just sink, go to the bottom. But the main part was to hit the horn, which was a hard bouncing up and down the water. They were, like your fingers, so many on a mine. Of course, once the ship had the concussion of the mine busting, put a hole in the ship, or anybody in the water within quite a few metres of it, that was the end of them. Not their body, not the top of them, underneath the water. If you were from the, waist down, you'd be gone. It'd just blow you to pieces. But it didn't affect the top part of your body. If you hit the horn, the shrapnel would go everywhere. But if you just hit the mine itself, as I said, put a hole in, and then gradually sink to the bottom. Mining was a pain in the ass. But you had to do it, generally 2 or 3 ships together, sometimes one out, but 2 or 3 ships together. Well, you covered a greater area, but half the time you didn't get mines, They were supposed to be there and they weren't there, But they caused a lot of bloody trouble, Sometimes the storms, you'd see a mine floating around. Well, you'd just get a rifle party. They had chaps were good with the rifles, and go in so far and fire at it, and just sort of the storm they broke away from the mooring. Could have been your own mine, not the Germans or the Japs. You had a hammock bin. You got out of the morning, the first thing you done was lash your hammock up and put it in the bin. And over night time, after rounds, the officer of the watch come around about 8 o'clock every night, go through the mess to see if everything was in place and tidy. Then you hung your hammock up if you wanted to go to sleep when the lights were out at 9 o'clock. So jokers used to get in the corner and play cards with the night lights, you know. If you're down on the mess stick and you wanted to go up to the loo or action stations, you had them lights to guide you, you know, to the toilet and the action stations you had them. And at the end of where you went out on deck, they had curtains, black curtains, and you only opened one and went out that one, closed that before you opened the other, so it wouldn't throw a light out over the sea. And it's surprising, a lot of people, we don't, not so much the light, I don't, but noise, how he carried any noise, carried over the sea. And all your rubbish from your mess stick, your meal, was, every tin had to be punctured at the bottom. So when you threw all your cardboard and rubbish out, it all went out of a night time, so it wouldn't be floating around, so the enemy wouldn't see it. We lost the last ship of the convoy, a New Zealand ship, the Limerick, L-I-M, I see it. Yeah, and so it didn't. We picked up the submarine, but they were cunning. Once they sunk a ship, the skipper of that ship would try and go under the survivors, so he wouldn't drop depth charges, kill the whole crew of the survivors. You know, some skippers done it in England and them places. To get the ship, they took the way, because they looked at it, well, if you don't go, if you let it go, it lives to sink another ship, you know. It was a hard thing, but our joke, we didn't do it, and we lost it, and the ship took about 2 hours to sink, the Limerick, and all the jokers were floating in the water. They got their life belts on, and little light they had on their life belt, and they all had whistles. They used to blow them to let you, of course you're in the dark, dead dark at night, you know, and we picked them all up, and the other ships went ahead with the other corvette, and we rushed into Brisbane, come in under the Story Bridge. They must have sent a signal through, and the Red Cross and they're waiting for all the men, all the survivors, and we dropped them off there, and they took over from there, took them to get clothing and look after them. Then we went out, speed ahead, and caught up with the convoy again. And as the war went on, we went up further, and there were 3 corvettes, and we picked all these army jokers up one night. Where was it? I just forget. Yeah, all 2nd 9 Divvy hadn't been long back from the Middle East. And we were to land them at Buna, not Burma, Buna, that night to take it over. And we snuck in there, and we found out later the Japs were doing the same thing on the other side of the island. And here we snuck in there, and these bloody planes come over and dropped flares everywhere. And to tell you the truth, me or none of this crew that are alive knew to these days whether they were young planes or jet planes. But all the crew was still on board, luckily. So we up anchor and pissed off down to another island and stayed there all day and waited that night. And that night we landed them there, and they were successful. They took that island from the Japs. So, yeah. And a few weeks later we were in Moresby, and we struck a couple of the Jaegers who were in the hospital. Oh, they lost quite a few men taking the island. And one Jaeger there had half his arm gone, and he's telling us there's about 8 of us going over this embankment, and bloody Japs just whizzed past, and he was lucky he went down with them, and just got hit on the arm, but he lost his arm. But as they said, the Japs are tied to the coconut trees, up in the coconut tree. So when I come back to Millen Bay once, Rudkins, pack your bag and hammock, you're going to the Bendigo. That was another Corvette. Oh, God. Anyhow, packed my bag and went ahead, and the officer watch said, "That'll be here tomorrow. They'll pick you up here." I spent about 6 weeks in Millen Bay doing nothing. Or of a night time, you don't do nothing. They had them there. They had other army jackets that doing night work. All the stores were coming that had come in off the ships. We had to sort them and that. So of a daytime, I'd done nothing. I come back, I slept till about, had a special dormitory for the night shift. And we slept there, had to come back, got up, had breakfast, then slept, then walked around the bloody island all day doing nothing. Could have had a bomb, but that's the way it was. And it was bloody 6 weeks before that ship come picking out. We're over there, and I went there in Durban, Bombay, Aden. Never go to Aden. Not a bit of bloody grass anywhere. It's all sand, you know. You're getting up near the Red Sea once you go through Aden. You went ashore once on that, you know, just have a look around. Or you could buy elephant little, you know, plenty of things on that. But Bombay was the same. It was a bit more excitement. But you were warned on the ship's company warned. You never went to a brothel in them places, because and some of them did, you know, ended up with venereal disease. And of course, what they were, if too many got it, it took them out of working part of the ship. You know, they were either in sick bay on the Norman, which was only held 2 or 3, or went to a hospital ship. And they were all cured, you know. They spent about 3 months away. Even if they come back to the ship, they had their own mess, their own knife and fork and every bloody thing.